Hey everyone, my name is Suds.
And I'm Sabrina.
Welcome to Zero Calorie Marketing. Today we're joined by Niamh, who's the head of content at Fidel.
We learn how Niamh uses taxidermy, dream journals, and Irish dancing.
This was a really fun podcast for us to conduct, especially because it was like the last thing we did on the day, and we had a lot of fun talking to Niamh.
All right, let's begin. I have to ask this question just because Suds wrote it down, and I think it's really funny. And it's just I've been staring.
Don't get the expectations up.
It's it. Could you tell us about what it's like to live with a name like Niamh? Have you met anyone else called Niamh?
I have met a few Niamhs. Not that many. I think it's becoming more common, but it's difficult. So I think
I know the guy from Catfish. His name is Niamh.
Guy from but that's like Nev or something, isn't it? Or he spells it like N-E-V.
Yeah, he spells it differently.
Yeah. So it was quite. I would say it was character building as a child. Because the thing that happened is that like at school, when people go like if you had a substitute teacher or something and they'd be going through the register, they would. They would just stop when they got to know my name and I'd be like, and that's Niamh. Yeah. So I always knew. Like I didn't even wait for them to try it because there would just be this long pause and you'd realise like, oh, that's me. Yes, this is me.
No, Niamh, I also have a very complicated name. So my nickname is Suds.
Right.
But my full name is Silishan.
Right.
And you can imagine how difficult that is for especially supply teachers. They would just give up. They would just be, this guy, what's his name?
Whoever this one is. How do you feel about it now? Because now I just kind of will answer to anything that vaguely sounds like an attempt at Niamh.
The thing is, I've grown to just accept it.
Yeah, right, you have to. You can't keep fighting that battle like every day. Every time someone gets it wrong, I just can't. I haven't got the energy to correct them.
The name contains some names and some phonetics that don't exist in the English vocabulary.
Oh, well, that's not super helpful. Mine at least has all the same letters. It's just that the Irish names, they've always, the thing with Irish names is they've always got one trick letter, but you never know like which one it's going to be.
Yeah,
and
Siobhan.
B, secret B, no reason for that to be there.
Iobi. Iobi, that's,
I don't even know that one.
I don't know that one either.
That was, or Onya.
Oh, yeah.
Onya was
Well, my sister's name's Gronya.
Gronya.
Yeah, that one's less
Sinead.
common. Sinead, yeah.
Sinead, yeah.
Okay, so tell us a bit about your childhood, your university, just growing up and how life was.
Oh, okay. So childhood, I've got one sister, Gronya, who I just mentioned. Grew up near Cambridge, where I have a really, really poor memory. So I don't know if I'm trying to block stuff out of my childhood, but the only things I really remember doing are Irish dancing, which we did like every weekend. We would go and compete doing Irish dancing, and going to church. So I was raised good Irish Catholic. So mostly everything revolved around those two things. I assume we were doing other stuff at some point, but I can't remember. Like I can't ride a bike or swim. So it was like I wasn't doing any of that stuff. So I figured, I don't know. I think the rest of that time must have just been spent at church apparently. Fairly average sort of family. Went to school, did fine, and then went to uni. Did English at uni, which was good.
What uni did you go to?
Went to Oxford.
Wow.
You did English language and literature?
I did, yeah. I did a gap year actually before I went because I applied to all of the usual places and didn't get in anywhere. No, I worked in a pub.
Got into Oxford,
I got into Oxford the second time. So the first time I applied, I wanted to go to Oxford, didn't get in, and just thought, I'll take a year out and reapply. But no, I didn't do any fun travelling. I went and worked in a pub and did another A-level, which was pointless. Wouldn't recommend that.
What was A-level in?
So I'd had previously, just a bonus one, yeah. I had previously done, I think I'd done English language, and then I was like, I'll do English literature as well. Ooh. Just get the double in there.
Your English is very good.
Thanks. Yeah, it kind of needs to be.
Few mistakes.
Yeah,
so what's your all-time favourite book?
Lolita.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Nabokov.
Yeah. I think it's all-time favourite book because it's just the first one that really kind of like struck me and sort of stayed with me in that way where you like fall in love with it and it's just this whole magical experience.
Yeah, it is. It's a great book.
What is the spiritus?
Taz is trying to pronounce your Instagram handle.
Sprezzatura.
What is a sprezzatura?
It's an I don't speak Italian. It's an Italian word that I believe someone pulls me up on this now. It's going to be really embarrassing. I think it means the art of like studied kind of lightness and coolness and appearing very, just cool and unflappable. It's like a studied art of looking cool.
A studied art of looking cool.
Looking cool.
That's cool.
It's deep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm achieving that either, so. But it's a goal.
So Niamh, you studied English language and literature, and now you're the head of content for a tech company.
Yeah.
How did you, when you went to uni, did you imagine this is something you'd be doing?
No, not remotely.
What did you want to do?
So I don't really tend to think in terms of, I didn't think I had an idea of exactly what I wanted to do, hence English degree, right? Because then you can just do a lot of stuff is the idea. And when I left uni, I went into TV because I sort of had this vague sense that would be something I'd enjoy. But I had no experience with it, didn't know anyone in the industry, didn't really know what that looked like. But managed to get into that anyway, and it was quite fun initially. But I did that for about 2 years, but then realised it wasn't really for me in terms of... No, actually the opposite. It was all kind of quite fun. Because I was doing like developing game shows, which was just ridiculous. Like you'd spend all day being like, can I fit 3 eggs in my mouth? And that would be a game show round, which is a laugh, but it wasn't particularly like mentally challenging. And also just there wasn't a lot of structure about like job security or development and progression or anything like that. So I just had a bit of a panic one day and was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Didn't have a backup plan. So just sort of started randomly applying for marketing and PR jobs because that seemed like a relatively decent fit for an English degree. Blagged my way into a very small PR agency. And that was it. That happened to be a tech PR agency. So I started doing tech stuff and then ended up in the tech world. But I wouldn't, like, when I was at school, I had, it was super precocious, but I had a like cassette player instead of an iPod, primarily because I couldn't afford an iPod and the one that I had kept breaking. So, but then I was like, I'll just make a thing of this. So I had a cassette player and like loads of tapes, which was really dorky. But the point being, I was absolutely terrible with tech, never been something I was interested in. Actually actively quite backwards with tech. So I just sort of fell into the tech world, but then once I ended up there, turned out I quite liked it. It's quite a nice place to be.
Cool.
So you're head of content.
Yeah.
What is content to you in terms of what do you do with it? How do you work with it? What do you do basically?
That is a good question because I think one of the biggest challenges in my job at the moment is kind of trying to explain that to everyone else. Yeah. Because I think that in sort of sales, especially sales team, right? If you think how closely the marketing team works with sales, they only understand content insofar as like maybe a case study. Okay. And that would probably be the extent of it. So now what I'm trying to do is to kind of shape their thinking a little bit to help them understand that it's more about crafting this kind of much longer play, and it's about crafting journeys that we can take people on and creating enough information and not trying to be too persuasive or too salesy, but to like educate them and inform them and help them be better at their own job and to give them resources that they need to genuinely help them so that when they are ready to buy something, like they've got a relationship there's a brand that they recognise and trust, and so that they'll kind of think to come back to us, not that it's like they're going to read something and then buy something. So kind of trying to explain that this is a longer journey, but that it also then has a much longer term sort of positive effects in that that's a customer that you can more easily retain and is more bought into the brand and kind of has a clearer sense of who we are and how we can help them. There's kind of more holistic relationship and how we can use that to sort of the whole way along, kind of from acquisition to retention.
We're going to be covering more of that in the second part of this conversation meeting.
Sorry,
I thought I'd suddenly become very formal.
More about your personal. What is the title of the first? Take two. What is the title of your first novel going to be? Could you tell us the basic outline?
Oh God, I don't know if I've got a novel in me. You know how like most people think, I could write a novel.
Short
That's
story.
the thing I could do. Short story. Is it about me? Is it like an autobiography, or is it just any novel?
I have this theory that anyone who has studied English language and literature at university has gone in with this idea of one day becoming a novelist?
A great writer.
Exactly.
No, I think I'm the opposite. I think I need to do the job that I'm doing because I don't think I have enough like creative vision to come up with any great masterpiece. I think a part of me still suspects that if I keep at it long enough, actually, do you know what? The book I'm going to write is this. I have thought about this. The book I'm going to that was all a lie. The book I'm going to write is this. I have quite alarming dreams quite often. They're just like a bit weird and a bit off kilter and often populated by minor celebrities in quite entertaining ways, which I think is because I read this once that your brain can't like generate new faces, so it just sort of like pulls things from just various places. So my dreams are often just got this weird cast of like people off TV soaps and people I went to school with when I was like 5 and just other random people doing odd things. And I've always thought that, like, if I were ever to write an autobiography, instead of just being like, oh, I went to school, I went to university, I fell in love, all of that stuff, I would just write a journal of all my dreams because A, it's much more interesting than my actual life, and B, probably, if you're going to get in there and get all psychoanalytical on it, probably reveals a lot more about who I am as a person. So, dream journal, and then, you know, people can just let loose on that and tear it apart and probably reveal some awful secrets about my psyche that, honestly, it'd be interesting to know, you know? I'm kind of keen to see what people take from it. So maybe that's it.
I'd read.
Would you read it, do you think? I think my best ever celebrity dream moments, cameos were one time where I headbutted the Queen, knocked her tooth out, very bad. And another one where Elton John got in our car and started driving the car off and the car lost control and just was all very terrifying.
Interesting.
We could do a whole podcast about
just about my dream. Okay, I'll start with the book and then we can turn it into a podcast.
Could we buy the rights to making a film?
For the right offer, yeah.
For the right offer.
Got it.
So, obviously, you're working, I'm assuming, 7 days a week.
5 days a week.
I'm not doing 7. I'm
thinking of like the way 5 days a week, my mistake. You might have some sort of routine in place, but how do you balance your work life and your personal life? And like, what sort of gets you up in the morning? What inspires you?
That's really good. So I think what I like about my current role is that I get a lot of control over it. So I can work more or work less or whatever, but it's up to me to set like what I think I want to achieve and what the target should be and to make that happen. So arguably I could take that as an excuse to sort of just do a bit less or set less ambitious goals. But for me, I am someone who like takes pride in my work, and the reason I'm doing this job is because I actually really enjoy it. So being able to set my own strategy and work out, you know, decide exactly what the work is I'm going to do means that I can then just do stuff that I want to do and enjoy. So actually I can just get up and go to work for the love of doing the thing that I genuinely am quite excited about. And yeah, it probably sounds quite nerdy, but for instance, today we had a meeting about video and how we might be able to use video. And now I'm just like, yeah, let's make some videos. So then, you know, tomorrow I want to go to work because I want to get started on that stuff. So that helps. Main thing, I don't know, the other stuff I get out of bed for is just breakfast. That's always helpful. I've started trying to do like yoga or some sort of exercise in the mornings, but that is a real mixed bag of results there. Some days it's like, oh God, yeah, I'm so zen. And I use ClassPass and you get charged like 12 quid if you cancel it, which is a lot. And I've run up so much, like so many charges with classes where I've booked a class at like 7 a.m. because I think I'm going to be that person. It gets to like 6 when my alarm goes off and I'm just like, absolutely not a chance. But now I'm much poorer for that. So it swings and roundabouts.
It's a great motivation to...
It's not. I thought it would be, this is why I got it, because I thought it would be more of a motivation to like, well, you don't want to get all of these fees, go to the gym. It's not working. So I'm still not exercising anymore, and it's maybe now I'm losing money.
Is that? I didn't know that's how ClassPass works.
Yeah, it's a racket. I'm telling you, it's really because also when I first got it, I didn't realise that was what was happening. So I just kept cancelling loads of classes, and it was only after I cancelled literally like 5 or 6, and I got this bill for like 60 quid. I was just like, I won't swear, but
the transition from. You said you're doing film and TV and the transition from that to then like tech.
Yeah.
Did
you went via PR?
Went via PR.
Did you have any like major fears or nervous? Like how did you sort of make that change, and how did you sort of like put yourself into this new environment of work?
Yeah. Let's think. How did I do that? So I think with the kind of transitioning into, the first little PR agency that I went and worked in, that was proper, it wasn't even imposter syndrome because I actively was an imposter. Like literally they'd, in the job description, they'd said like, we want someone with 2 years experience in this and a couple of years experience in that. And I had been upfront about it, but in this cover letter, I was like, I can't do any of those things, but I can do these things. And that seemed to work. So I guess there was that I hadn't, lied about it. And I knew that they were bringing me in to sort of train me up a bit. And then I don't think when I then moved, that I was only there for a year, and then when I moved in-house into a tech company to take on more of the content, I think it was actually just pure ignorance that got me through it. Because if I'd realised how big of a change it was going to be and how much there was to learn, and actually how little I knew about tech, marketing, working inside a business, because I'd been agency side before, I literally knew nothing about it, but I didn't know what I didn't know, so I wasn't worried about it until I got there.
Because in a way you've gone from TV to PR and now to tech or content. For most people, this is a very big leap in a way. How did you, if anyone's thinking of doing this, what advice would you give them?
Don't do that, yeah. No, I think it doesn't feel like that big of a leap to me. They do feel like kind of a natural progression, because I think the heart of all of them was, for me, writing, but in more broadly speaking, it was kind of like the ability to identify a narrative and to tell a story in the way that people will respond to. So for the job that I was doing in TV, it was developing game shows, which does sound stupid, like I said, how many eggs can you fit in your mouth, right? But no one's just going to watch 15 rounds of that. You have to build it into a story arc, and there has to be jeopardy, and there has to be something at stake, and stuff for people to engage with, and a journey for them to go on, and in a much arguably less interesting way than the egg thing. That is still what I'm doing now in the content that I'm creating. Maybe I should do some sort of egg content for Fidel, I don't know. But yeah, so that's basically always been, and it was the same with PR, is about, I can give you if we're doing a press release for a tech company, anyone can sit there and see these are the benefits of the company, here's what it does, here's who runs it. But it's being able to turn that into something that actually is compelling and talk about it in a way that an audience is going to care about, that is, the value there. So I think that's kind of been a common thread through all of them that's just been applied in different ways.
See, all the teachings from university has...
See, I do. See, it's all coming together in a beautiful loop.
Okay. So in terms of, you've sort of dipped your toe into a few different things. If you could do anything else apart from taxidermy, what else could you see yourself do apart from what you're doing right now?
In the tech marketing world, or anything at all?
Anything.
I don't know. I think I am actually doing the thing that I wanted to do, so that helps. If I were to do anything else, I think it would be completely different. And the only idea I've ever entertained, which is I don't think I would ever do it, but is being some sort of prison counsellor. So this is something that my dad did years and years ago when I was a little kid, as a volunteer. But I do, in general, I think that I'm quite interested in sort of prison reform, and I think that that's another area where there's a lot of politics and sort of philosophy almost, because of the way that it, other specific groups are disadvantaged, or there's a lot of power dynamics and stuff, and it's obviously a very flawed system. Yeah, and I think that's kind of a cool thing to do, to look at the individuals in that system and then try to help them, rather than just being all criminals are bad and just need to be locked up. So I've always thought that would be a very interesting and worthwhile thing to do, but I don't think I'm nice enough to do that. So maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Shall we move into some marketing questions?
Yes.
What about the best friend?
Oh yeah, okay. So, your best friend has decided to launch a new business and asks your advice on marketing. What is the first thing you say?
Pay me. No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I think that the main problem that people have with marketing, or that people don't understand about marketing, is that it is not one thing. Again, if you think about the way that marketing works really closely with sales is essentially kind of one thing, but you have a lot of people doing, maybe in different industries or whatever, but you've got 10 salesmen, they're all essentially doing the same thing. If we've got a team of 10 marketers, they're all probably doing completely different things. So I suppose my advice would be to figure out where do you need to start? How, do you actually understand the kind of different areas this touches? What is it you're trying to achieve? and then pay me.
And then,
Yeah.
and leading on to that, what would you say is one of your biggest frustrations with like marketing, digital marketing?
I think because it's actually also the thing that I enjoy about it, especially working in a startup environment where you are doing bits of everything. Because there is so much to do and it covers such a broad spectrum of things, it's quite difficult to do a lot of stuff quickly. Like, you've really got to spend a lot of time like setting up processes and laying foundations and educating other team members and getting people bought in and all of that stuff. And so you're kind of doing like lots of different things at once, and you can only shuffle them forward quite slowly often. But it's not just a case of like adding bodies.
Yeah.
So it's great because like, yeah, for me in a startup, I get to do little bits of all of those things, but it's also frustrating because, you know, there's just so much to do.
Do you ever have any like moments where, well, I suppose because you're saying you're in a startup, like it's just, wow, this is really not working, this is the end, or what have we done? Like how, I think it must be quite terrifying being in a startup just because you don't really have any, you're not in a corporate, you're not in a big company. How do you deal with like those situations where you're kind of, maybe something's not gone right? Well, maybe you haven't experienced that, but...
So I think kind of two parts to this. One is that I don't think I have, that's what I like about it in the current role, is like, and the reason I kind of left my last place was because I didn't have enough room to just try the stuff that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I've gone into this place with basically just I've got a really clear idea of what I want to do. I've no idea if it's actually the right thing to do. I think it is, and it seems to be working quite well and like aligning with what other people think is the right idea. But that's what I quite like about it, is just being able to like set stuff up, and because it is a startup, you're not inheriting other people's systems, and you're not already walking into huge goals that you don't know how to meet. So like we're kind of setting it all up as we go, at your own pace, yeah, which is admittedly fairly breakneck, but we're not. We've got time to set that stuff up and do it properly and work out how to do it properly before we're supposed to be hitting like crazy targets. Sure. But the other side of it is like the thing that's frustrating about it is not being able to achieve things. It's just that everything that we want to achieve inevitably takes a lot longer than you think it's going to, because what I found is you have to start kind of like with everything. You have to start like 5 steps back from where you thought you were going to. So for instance, something that I've been working on the last month or so was I realised like, I want to build a messaging house because I know we can talk about these topics, but I maybe want to start to think about what other topic areas we could own and build some content around. So that seemed like that was going to be a fairly straightforward job of just like, well, we'll do messaging house, we'll work out what our kind of value propositions are, we'll build topics around those, job done. But then in trying to do that, realised that actually across the business there was quite a variety of ideas about what our value propositions were, or what industries we were targeting, or which personas. So now we've had to kind of go several steps back to like just start our messaging again. And that means like talking to everyone internally to get their idea about what we think we're doing, talking to customers to see if that's what they're hearing or if they're buying for totally different reasons, then get everyone aligned around, you know, what the actual, you know, the validated messaging is, and then apply it into a messaging house. So like this job that I thought was going to take me a week to do a messaging house is actually now like a quarter's worth of work and a whole project that involves the whole company. So it's like everything kind of ends up taking on that like much bigger scope and much longer timeline. So it just takes a while to get stuff done. But then it's quite nice to be able to have a hand in actually like everything from scratch, so that when it comes to me, it's not coming to me half-baked by someone that I didn't understand. It's like I've gone away and built that, and now I can use it.
Exactly.
So it takes a while, but I find that quite enjoyable to just kind of have that ownership over it.
So it's something very interesting you said in terms of like all the parties that you're listening, you have to listen to. How do you put a weight on whose opinion you should value more?
Yeah, that is an interesting one. I think it is quite tricky. Like as a marketer, we have to listen to the market, and that's actually quite difficult I don't think you can ever really get close enough, because for us to even talk to our customers, it's like we've got to go through customer success, we've got to go through sales. We're not like the front line of people that are really engaging with the market every day. Even like, and we can try and build up processes there, but there's always kind of like one step removed. And also then there's just, and ditto with like all of our internal teams, especially sales, like we obviously want to help them and to empower them, but there's always this thing of, with, you know, both of those parties, that yes, they have an idea of what they think and what they think they want, but they might not know what they don't know. So you kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt and be like, I know you think you want this, but I think actually this would be better for you. So it's always kind of like trying to massage those two things, but not to let your own bias get in the way. And then for us, you know, our co-founder, because the company's really small, our co-founders are very involved, and it's like, it's their baby. So, you know, ultimately the way that they see it can be quite different. And that's actually been really nice this quarter as part of this messaging project, to like really sit down with our co-founders and hear them tell the story of the company, because they know it best. And actually it completely changed my view of what I thought we were and where I thought we were going. So yeah, you do get different versions of it from everywhere. But I think the things you have to look for are like the points of convergence, because then you kind of know like, oh, okay, well, this is something that we can all agree on, and how do we move that forward? But yeah, it's tricky. I think sometimes you end up with two completely opposing things and are just like, don't really know how to bring them together. But I think that's just kind of an ongoing process of like continually setting up those feedback loops and just trying to nudge it forward a little bit at a time. And it shouldn't be something that you have to like start from scratch and just redo time and again. Like, then something is not working, but I think it should be this process of like constant iteration to get it closer and more refined and more effective.
What are some of your biggest frustrations?
If
If you have any.
I think that... So I think, yeah, it's probably getting people bought in to content. So the good thing about when I joined my current company is none of this existed beforehand. So I kind of knew I was going to have probably a 3-month grace period where I could get stuff set up before people started asking for content, because they didn't know that they wanted it yet. So like that was quite nice, but I kind of knew that the day was coming where they'd be like, oh, actually, I've seen this, that was quite good, can I have another one of them or whatever. Yeah. But then they kind of just have this one idea of like, I want that. And maybe that isn't the right thing that they need, or they haven't. I used to get it at my old company as well. Everyone would come up to me and ask me for a press release. And I was like, why do you want a press release? This isn't a news story. Like, that's not the thing that you want. Or they want a blog. Yeah. And it's like, no, okay, what is it that you're trying to, and so you have to kind of go, okay, what is it you're trying to achieve? Who is this for? Maybe what you want actually is this video or this like ebook or whatever it is. But it's like, you probably don't want a press release. So like, but they will come and ask you for like, I want this thing. And so like having to just like re-educate people about actually how this works, and that it is a longer journey, and that different pieces of content work in different ways, and maybe it's not the thing that you think you want, but I promise you it is still useful. Like that can be just quite a challenge, because like for instance at the moment, if I sort of every piece of content that I create, I share with the whole team to get them to share it, and they'll just be like, sometimes they'll be like, I don't know what this is not useful to me. And so then you have to explain like, no, well it's not, you know, it's not for the conversation that you're having right now, it's for this different earlier conversation, but eventually that will bring people to you, and just kind of you having to get them to see that longer picture and to not think so short term that it's like deliver one piece of content, customer buys. Like just that kind of re-education piece and bringing people along on that journey can be quite difficult.
In terms of like, I know it sounds like you've entered into some sort of like a blank canvas situation where you're creating things as you go. Yeah. Not improvising things, but you're having to assess the situation as it is, and then coming up with ideas, and, maybe even coming up with best practices that you've had from your previous role. Do you think your life would have been easier if you have had some kind of, not boundaries, but some set parameters or some kind of strategy that you could have either entered into, or you could have said, okay, this was the strategy, we're not going to do this, or this going to change?
Yeah, definitely. So I think especially at I mentioned when I started at my last company, which was my first like in-house tech company kind of content role, I really didn't know what I didn't know, and I'd never worked in-house, and I'd never worked in a marketing team, and I honestly had no idea what I was doing. But because that was also a startup and fairly early stage, there wasn't really anyone else there that knew about this particular thing either. Like the marketing team was quite young, certainly nobody had done content. And so it took me quite a long time to figure out like what the point of it was and what I was trying, because I kind of went in and you just sort of start, and I think actually a lot of companies do this, companies that are a lot more mature, but it's quite an easy trap to fall into, where you're just like writing a blog a week, but not really sure why or like what the point of that is, but you're just doing it because you feel that you should be doing it. So I think we spent quite a long time kind of in that area where I was like, I'm producing stuff, but I can't really work out, and I kind of didn't really have a clear idea of what I was trying to do with it. I just sort of had this sense that it was something I was supposed to be doing. And that, and then I remember being asked to write a content strategy, and I was literally just like, the fuck is in a content strategy? Like, I don't know. And I was Googling, like, what goes in a content strategy? And there was just, like, no resource for this. And that was super frustrating because I kind of had, I just had these kind of collection of vague ideas of, like, things I thought I wanted to achieve, or, like, just the start of understanding of things, but no way to understand how to bring it together or how to make it useful or anyone to ask. And so now I think that's really influenced the way that I think about creating content now, is like, what would have been so useful for me at that time, or what I really wanted, was just like something that just practically tells me how to do this thing that I need to do. And so all of the content that I create now, I try and focus it on that, like how to make someone better at their job, and like to give them practical advice. Because a lot of content out there is just like, here is an overview of this topic, and there's like 50 companies that have done basically the same overview of that topic, and it doesn't get you any closer to being able to actually use that information. So that is what I constantly have in mind, is like, make this useful to people, because there are so many people who are like me at that time, just being like, because all the content that I found was like, you need to have a content strategy, and I was like, yes, I know I need to have one, but no one will tell me how to build one, and that is what I want, is how to do it, not just this vague sense that you should do something in this area. Yeah. So yeah, it would have been super useful to have that. I guess now it's been quite a nice journey to just be like, well, I figured it out by myself. But again, I'm still a lot of it, for that reason, is quite untested. So it's me just thinking like, well, I've got this far, and I think from having kind of like struggled to get here, I think I now know what I need. But I might be wrong, because again, I still haven't got that much kind of guidance on it, but I don't know, it's all an adventure.
So from the sounds like it, a lot of what you do is tied to your personality, in terms of you believe in doing things because they're the right things to do, rather than doing things because that's how things have always been. A lot of
logic and thought put into it.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that's why I got out of TV, is because I wasn't, like, I like being challenged, and I like challenging myself and like learning new stuff, and I could have stayed in TV and just been like, here is how you do a game show, but it wasn't challenging me. And the same with content, I could have just carried on being like, you do a blog a week, but like I couldn't see the outcome of that, or the output, or why that was impactful, or what it was for. And so I found that frustrating, because then you can't get any better at it. So for me, like, just having like a problem to solve, and to be able to feel that I'm challenging myself and I'm learning, is like kind of my constant motivation, like in work and in life broadly.
What's one of the greatest things, or proudest things you've sort of curated, like it was a big sort of obstacle that you needed to come up with, or sort of figure out, and you did it?
In work, or just in general?
Yeah. Well, in general, work, whatever. In terms of like a content strategy,
yeah.
Or...
I think... Yeah, so I think just kind of the whole process of like building the content strategy at my last company, but sort of just doing it in a way where I felt that I was like fumbling about. It was almost like you're building something in a dark room and you couldn't really see what you were putting together, but you had this vague sense you were building something.
It's going by touch.
Yeah, pretty much, and just sort of like feeling it out. So I'm kind of quite proud that ended up being, just anything that we even worked remotely. Yeah. So that in of itself. And there were, I think, individual pieces along the way that I was like, I am really pleased with this. This was a really cool idea. And there was like, actually they haven't published it, so I won't talk about it, but there was like quite a big piece of content that I like left mostly done when I left there, and was like, this is my gift. Where, I mean, I don't know, maybe it wasn't any good. Maybe that's why they haven't used it. But that was another one where it was kind of like, it was a new format for that company. It wasn't something they'd done before. If it had been used correctly, it could have been something where it's like really effective and really impactful, and something they could have repeated year on year. And so I was like, oh, this is cool, I'm glad I've done that. And then I left. So that was it. I did my thing, I was out. Yeah.
Like one of those flash bombs.
Yeah, it was probably like mic drop. Yeah, that was it. Bam, I'm out.
No, that's great. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Just pen. It doesn't make quite such a satisfying noise. You just drop your pen.
That's really interesting.
You know what they say about the pen being mightier than the sword.
Right, exactly. Killed a couple of people on the way down. It was really lethal.
How has social media as a marketing platform benefited your business company?
Well, like how much of social media do you need to take into account whenever you're creating a piece of content?
So I like...
How much does it come into play?
Yeah, and like in my personal life, it's not something I really use that much.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I'm just a lurker, right? So like I have a Twitter account, I have no tweets.
You have 2 tweets on your
Oh, do
Twitter.
I thought I deleted them all. Damn, what are they? Is it like Top Shop, please fix my boots?
I'm
Like
like a
I bet they're
retweeter.
complaining tweets.
But I don't think I'd ever have the courage to tweet something. out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it was Justin Bieber. Let me see.
I love you. Why don't you return my call? Yeah, it sounds about right.
I wrote you a piece of content and you never returned my letter.
I'm writing a novel.
I'm writing a novel and I saw you in my
It was in my
In a
dream,
dream.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't use it that much. So it's always one of those. In fact, the reason I deleted my Twitter was because what it had on there was like every time I was applying for a job, basically from the point I left uni, I was like, you need to be active on social. So I just have like a couple of months where I was clearly just in job applying process, where I'd have these like absolute nonsense tweets that were just worthless. Then it would stop again for like 2 years. And then when I was looking for another job, I'd be like, oh, better stop tweeting again. So I deleted it because it looked stupid. So it's not something, I feel like some people are like, they're really good at it naturally and it's a thing they really understand and are happy to put a lot of energy into, where for me it's always been a bit of an effort. So it's not something that I enjoy, but it is something that's clearly useful. And so one of the first things I did when I joined Fidel was A, to just like get some content production underway, but B, to get just like a consistent organic distribution process. So like every piece of content was going out, you know, the same number of times in the same places, so that we could actually then start to compare them and see like, well, which ones perform better, because no good seeing like, oh, this blog got 10 views and that one got 100 if it was like, well, yeah, well, the one you got 100 you posted like 50 times or whatever. So just trying to, that was the main way that I used social, was more as a tool to understand my content, so that if I'm putting it all in the same place at, you know, the same time, then it's at least you've got some sort of a level playing field where you can start to see, okay, well, which one got more engagements. And because we're still quite early stage and are still working on like defining our personas and validating them, like if I had that already, I wouldn't necessarily need to do this kind of testing. But because I don't, it's like, well, what's a kind of replacement for that in the interim? And it's like, well, I can use social as a bit of a testing ground to see like what are people responding to, and you know, how can we use that information and then, you know, scale up those things that are working or drop the things that aren't. So that's been quite useful as like a kind of surrogate for having more information.
So you've now been in marketing content for 3 years now, 2 years now?
About 3, yeah, probably about 3 and 4, 3 or 4. God, I don't know. Yeah, 3 probably.
And I think like even within the last 2-3 years, there's been like a great change in just the way content is being made and sort of produced, if you will.
Consumed as well.
Yeah. How have you sort of kept up with that change in the industry, if you will, or like
Yeah.
the way it's very, you know, sometimes it has a trend and it's always changing. So how are you keeping up with that?
Yeah, I think you're right. It has changed enormously. Like even just, and content marketing as a discipline has grown a lot. Like for instance, now if I Google how to make a content strategy, loads of stuff out there about how to do it, which I really could have used.
Create something. How to create.
You should, like, it's useful. Just say like literally what needs to be in it. That is what you need
Like
to know.
how to do it.
So yeah, I think content marketing as like a discipline has moved on a lot, which is nice. And I do try and keep up with, you know, what other people are doing, but I still think a lot of it's really crap. And that was kind of, yeah, that's the other thing about, like you were saying earlier about I try not to just do things because that's like the way it's done.
Go with what feels right.
Yeah, because I think a lot of like, yeah, for instance, case studies, there's like a really formulaic way you can do case studies, and that's kind of just the way they've been done since the dawn of time. But they're a bit crap. Like they're a bit boring to read and they're not very engaging, and like they serve one purpose. Someone will read it once and go, okay, yeah, it ticks that box of the thing I need this bit of software to do. But they're not going to share it. They're not going to remember it.
Yeah.
So like, why stick to that format? So then it's like, well, just how do you just make it something that people want to watch? And I think that's kind of or read or whatever. And that kind of is my sort of general philosophy. And I think the same goes for like stuff with SEO, like the algorithms keep changing, or trends, they keep changing, the channels people use, they keep changing. Yeah. There's no point in trying to like chase that. I think as long as you can create content that you genuinely think, when someone lands here, they will read it or they will watch it because it's just good. It's good. Like it's got a good story, or it's well produced, or it's useful. Then it doesn't really matter what the other things are. it will be effective. And like, I think that's just like, because then everything, well, maybe this is just me being lazy and I'm like, well, then I don't have to worry about the trends. But it does, I think that just generally means it's like going to be kind of evergreen rather than trying to write something that's like super keyword stuffed, or because it just like ultimately they'll change the algorithms anyway, so what's the point? So I just think like, just do stuff that's good. Yeah.
I mean, in a way, it is a lot of B2B literature, I guess. Is it like a genre in itself, you know, where this is the formula of how you write a horror or a B2C content or B2B?
Yeah. And I think that's what the problem with it is that there's just, with so many of like particular formats, like people just see it as, or a lot of companies tend to do it in just like, that's the way you do that bit of content, and therefore that's what they do. Instead of actually, and this is where I think my background in TV or having done an English degree or whatever, and thinking more about it in terms of like narrative or storytelling is like, yeah, you don't have to just do the case study the way that B2B does case studies. Like, why not take influence from chicken shop videos or whatever it is, like, because they're stuff that you enjoy watching. So at the end of the day, you're still selling to people, and so just, you don't have to like stick to this. And I think the other thing is like, it tends to be a bit like the content itself can be a bit turgid, but there's also like a lot of it is looks awful, like just a lot of really boring looking
It's the same thing.
websites. Yeah, just like not using images in a particularly good way, or just not making it engaging.
It's like when the person who's consuming or reading your piece of content is a human being who is probably on their phone, and the 1 minute they're watching a viral video, the next minute they're sort of reading about your company. I just feel that marketers, especially in the B2B world, they tend to just think, okay, no, they're suddenly going to be in a different persona, or they're going to be in a different mode where they think this should have bullet points, and this should have a quote, or this should have this. And it's this kind of frustration where the same person who's literally just stopped watching Dancing on Ice or Strictly Come Dancing isn't going to suddenly put on a business hat and say, I want to consume professionally written content, but written in a way that is very convoluted and very formulaic, that I expect this kind of content to be, rather than I want to be entertained, or I want something
relatable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so
Sometimes it is a hard balance to strike, because there is an element of needing to deliver something that people will like recognize and think that they want. And especially for my company now, like we deal with a lot of personal like financial data, which is really sensitive. So like we have to be careful of being like too informal or too flippant, or you have to be conscious of the tone. But that's not to say that you can't still make it entertaining, or
I don't think it's like not about your current company, but it's almost like you don't have to constantly play to people's
traditions.
Or you don't have to suddenly just say, okay, this is how we're going to interact with our customers, and this is the only way to do things. Whereas there's a whole spectrum of ways you can express yourself without having to be too informal or too formal. There is always this kind of middle ground.
I think we've gotten to like this bubble of, we've got like forms of creativity that we just stick to, and we haven't like got out of it in terms of, let's take a new approach, let's sort of create something differently but still get the same message across, which is an interesting space to sort of play around with now. Because I mean, if I just think about all the videos I get on my feed, just for example, adverts or just like targeted things, it's all formatted. It's very, it's very, the same.
We're almost like prisoners to our own ideas. And that is almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in terms of...
For example, even like an environmental video, which is a great concept, but it's all that same stuff, so really sad. And it's like...
so stock footage of some penguins.
I feel like if even a video that would have some sort of involvement of inspiration get involved, like that is just a different take of it. I don't even see anything like that. It's all the same, like melting ice caps, which yes, it's a thing, it's happening, but It's
Yeah.
all the same.
It's tricky, I think, as well, because I don't in any way like blame people for doing things the way that works, because like
For sure, 100%.
one thing is like it's very difficult to sell. I mean, when it's difficult to sell content at all, it's even harder to sell like let's do it in this crazy way, like up the chain. But then the other thing is that like, especially when you're working inside a business, like it's not always a super creative space, right? It's like it's very busy and it's crowded and you're trying to deal with whatever meetings.
And you know what's safe as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I think maybe that's just like, I think I mean, the company at the moment is really small, but like if that were to grow in the future, what I'd really like, the dream would be to have some sort of like little like content studio that's almost like, you know, where you can have that more creative atmosphere that's almost kind of set apart, not, you know, you still want to be integrated within the business, but like a far enough apart that you can still have it be a creative space rather than something that's like restricted by like making a sale or having a meeting or whatever.
It's like almost going more towards the art rather than science.
Yeah.
Like you can express yourself in any way you choose to, as long as it is, you know, within some sort of sensible barrier.
Yeah.
Or without you being too restricted.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like having a play, but the same things happen, but the script you're feeding the actors is
Yeah.
different.
Well, I think that's like why I kind of ended up in the role that I'm in, instead of just doing like, for instance, just like being a straight copywriter or something, or journalist or something like that. Is because I like that mix of like having the structure to work within and having like a clear idea of the strategy and like knowing it needs to fit certain need within the business, but then you also get the creative side of like, but I need the structure. I'm not going to write this novel. So like,
I mean, I was going to say it's good training for your novel.
for my novel, yeah, but I need the structure of my dreams. I can't just have like a blank page. I don't know what to do with that. But yeah, so I think that kind of like balance is really like works well for me. But it's just about getting the right balance within the business, so you've got enough space to be creative, but it still kind of meets some business expectation.
Cool.
Shall we move on to our second last question?
Yes.
What 3 tips would you give to someone starting out in the marketing industry?
In marketing?
Yeah. Or your field?
In content marketing. So yeah, I suppose the first one would be just to make sure that your constant goal, whatever else you're doing or whatever else the business requires, is like, if you're doing content marketing, it's probably because you've got an interest in the content itself or writing or narrative or whatever it is. Like, hang on to that, and like we've been saying, like, don't lose that kind of creative side of it and just think that you have to fit these formulaic molds, because ultimately that will be what sets your content apart, is if it's actually good. So that would be the first one, I think the most important one. The second one, I think, for content marketing is to make sure that it does have some structure. So I think for me, the turning, like I said at my last place, it was just a lot of fumbling about in the dark, but the real turning point was when we got a lead generation person in, and like partnering with her, because I think content can serve like so many different parts of the business and serve so many different needs that you just feel like, you're just doing these kind of random bits and pieces here and there, but they're not really adding up to very much. And so like when I started to work very closely with like lead generation, it was like, right, well, we've got a campaign, and this campaign is going to these people, and it needs to have this many touch points, and they need to go on these channels. So then it was like, cool, well, so then I know we need X, Y, Z, and it needs to be about this topic, and like that just gave me like so much more structure to have a clear idea of like, right, that's what we need because we're working towards this outcome. So that was really helpful. So I suppose like set one goal or partner up with one part of the business to make sure like that is what you're doing your content for, rather than just trying to do like bits of content for everyone, because that won't really get you very far. And then third thing would be
Content strategy.
I think just do as much reading as you can. It is out there now. So like take advice, I think the thing that I do now is that I've got 2 or 3 kind of companies that I go to a lot for, and just read their content about content, and now they're my like go-to. So like find your ones of those and read them, whether it's people or blogs or other businesses, and then try and be one of them. And that's the goal.
Oh, actually, if I could have one.
Sure, go for it.
What other companies that you look for to draw inspiration from?
Yeah, so the companies that there are a couple of different versions of that. So one is like companies where I think their content is good. And I suppose like the one that everyone talks about we're kind of broadly in the fintech space is Monzo. Like everyone loves Monzo. They've got like really good brand, good content, good tone, all of that stuff. And the other ones that I think do content well, kind of in the top tech space, are like Intercom does really good content. We kind of look at them quite a lot. There are probably others I'm forgetting now. But then on the content side, like the places I go to get my advice about how to do content. It's I tend to go to Contently. I think their stuff's really good.
Oh, yeah.
HubSpot's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Again, there's probably another one that I'm forgetting. But yeah, there are kind of like, I think once you kind of find those one or two, and but then again, this just proves the value of content to me, because it's like, I will go back to them like time and time and time again to just find my next bit of reading into, like they really, I mean, have we bought HubSpot? We haven't bought Contently, but like, they have managed to like completely, good content will shape your thinking on a thing. It doesn't just like report to you or give you an overview. It like will help you make a decision and help you develop. So they're the people I'll go back to time and again.
Great.
Yeah, Buff is pretty good, I found.
Yeah, they are good.
They had this superstar writer. I think she left to go and do something else. But she was almost like her work could, her B2B piece of blog post could almost be like a magazine article that you pay to read. And I think she went to do something else. I don't think she's doing any content for B2B, or she's not writing. Maybe she's gone back to writing a novel.
No, she has, that's it. She's taken a time out.
What she originally wanted to do. But it was just, every time she would tweet out, it was amazing stuff.
Well, I think we all have that thing where it's like, I've got so many newsletters that I've subscribed to, because in general, I think, yes, I am interested in it. But the majority of those go in the bin. But I think we've probably all got that one or two where you're like, oh no, actually every Friday I do read this one, because that one is actually good. Yeah. So I don't know, I don't know how you crack that. But I feel like I've just said like, just do it good, which is like what I complained about earlier, is like, but how? But that I don't have the answer to. Just got to feel it out.
You gotta figure it out.
Cool. The last thing is, what is the best way to get in touch?
What's the best way? The best way to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn, where I think I'm just Niamh Cassidy. But anyway, you'll find me under Fidel.
Cool. So this is our rapid fire questions starting now. So it's just whatever the first thing that comes to mind, answer it, go. And yeah.
Okay.
Would you rather have a beach break or a city one?
City break.
Card or cash?
Card.
Summer or winter?
Summer, but I get very sunburnt.
Okay, that's fine. Lots of sunblock for you. Morning, noon or night?
Night.
Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Favorite TV show of all time?
30 Rock.
Ooh, very good.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's go with that.
What was the second favourite?
Yeah.
Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Oh.
It's quite niche.
Okay.
It's very funny, I do recommend
I'll
that.
have to look into it. Is it British?
Yeah, it's a British comedy. It's got, like Matt Berry and Rich Daiwadi and people of that ilk in it, and it's like a hospital spoof drama
this is
thing.
based in the hospital.
It's really funny.
Okay,
it's very good.
Okay, I'm gonna have.
It's on Channel 4.
I love a good British comedy show. I'll have a look at that. Okay, which Friends character would you be if you have seen the show, if you like it?
Chandler.
Witty and sarcastic.
Okay,
Favorite place you've ever been to?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to say Japan, just because it's the most recent place I've been to.
Ooh, what is the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
A sea urchin?
Okay. What was the last book you read?
Cloud Atlas.
Was it good?
It's very dense.
Yeah, it was all right. I didn't love it.
What is your biggest addiction?
I don't think I have one. Everything in moderation.
We've never heard a person.
I don't know. Maybe I have got one. It's just not. It's not occurring to me.
What is the most interesting thing you own?
Interesting thing that I own. I've got a taxidermied mouse on my window ledge that I made.
That you made?
I made it. Yeah. It's awful. It's horrifying. It looks dreadful. I went to a taxidermy class. This was like last January. Started off really strong. Was very good at skinning the mouse. Stuffing it went awfully wrong, and now it just looks.
Was that a gift? A gift?
It was a gift. Yeah, my sister got me a voucher to go to this class.
Wow.
I thought I was going to do better than I did. It's now awful, but it's got pride of place on my window ledge.
What was the most spontaneous thing you've ever done?
Oh God.
I mean that's quite interesting.
I don't know if I do. I'm quite a planner. I plan in advance.
Okay.
Don't do anything super spontaneous.
What is the most you? Okay, no.
No, unless I've had too much to drink and then it all goes, can't comment on that.
What is the most used app on your phone?
City Mapper,
Oh,
probably.
City Mapper.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay. What do you do outside of work?
Taxidermy. I do Irish dancing. Trying to do yoga. I'm trying to be a yoga person. Not.
How's it working?
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting better, but I'm still not. Can't do a handstand. Can't do
Favorite position?
the lying down ones. Just breathing and lying down is fine. Anything that involves any kind of upper body strength or coordination is not really my area. But I'm trying to be more zen.
Okay, that's good. At least you're trying. In one sentence, how would you sum up the internet?
The internet, dark place.
Would you rather be 10 minutes late or 20 minutes early?
10 minutes late.
Okay, our last question. Okay, this is kind of like a big question.
Okay.
Sometimes people get like really. I'm just gonna say it.
Okay.
Would you rather have no teeth or no fingernails?
No fingernails. Yeah. Because I want to eat. How do you eat? And that's one of life's greatest pleasures.
Yeah, sure.
CSABs, no one's
Yeah, but I mean dentures.
Oh, you have the option to have false teeth.
Yeah.
But then you have the options to have.
No, but you can't change them.
But there's no alternative for like false nails. You can't put like.
I feel like fingernails are one of those things though where you kind of think, I could get by without those, and it's only if you lost them that you would realise actually how much stuff you need them for.
For the benefit of the podcast, Niamh has actually very nice manicure.
Thanks very much. Yeah, spent a lot of money on them, so thanks for noticing that.
On a podcast.
I thought I'd look my best for this audio medium.
And that's a wrap. Be sure to check out some of our other episodes.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.